and you hear like YoungBoy at this point, worth, who's made hundreds of millions of dollars. It's not a problem for him to provide, but even how he describes it, he says, "Oh, I got responsibility on both sides." He's kind of taking on that same role as what I was saying, which again, I think there's a lot of trauma there with him.
A day in the millionaire life of NBA YoungBoy is insane, and not just because of the cars, the diamonds, the designer clothes, or the private studios, though all of that is very much part of the picture. What makes YoungBoy's daily life genuinely wild is the combination of things that money bought him that you cannot put a price tag on. Privacy, peace, a completely new country, a life that looks nothing like where he started and nothing like what most people assume a rapper's day looks like. He has one of the most powerful catalogs in his generation, streaming numbers that most artists would trade their career for, a deal structure that pays him while he sleeps, and a daily existence that is now being built from scratch on the other side of the world. Stay with us, because by the time we walk through one full day in YoungBoy's millionaire life, you are going to see exactly how different wealth and freedom can look. Yo, what's good, fam? Today we are breaking down a full day in the millionaire life of NBA YoungBoy. The money, the lifestyle, the moves, and the world he has built for himself at just 26 years old. Let's get into it. To understand what YoungBoy's day looks like now, you have to understand who he is and how he got here. Kentrell Deshaun Golden was born on October 20th, 1999, in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. His childhood was not easy. His father went to prison before he could even form memories of him. He was raised largely by his grandmother. The streets of Baton Rouge shaped him early, and he started recording music as a teenager with almost no resources. He bought his first microphone at 14. What followed was one of the fastest and most unconventional rises in modern hip-hop history. YoungBoy did not build his career the traditional way. He did not grind for radio play or wait for a major label to shape his image. He went directly to the internet, specifically YouTube. He started releasing music at a relentless pace, and his audience came to him. A fiercely loyal fan base that streamed everything he dropped, shared everything he posted, and made him one of the most viewed music artists on YouTube in the entire world. He topped the Billboard 200 multiple times. He became the first rapper to do it 3 times in a single year. His catalog grew to include 8 studio albums, dozens of mixtapes, and a volume of released material that put him in rare company for his age. And all of that music kept generating money. Every stream, every video view, every playlist ad, all of it building a financial foundation that eventually translated into a lifestyle the kid from Baton Rouge could never have imagined back when he was scraping together money for studio time. Now let us talk about the money, because that is what drives the day. Public estimates of YoungBoy's net worth in 2026 range from roughly $10 million to $25 million depending on the source. Celebrity net worth places the figure around $20 million. Other trackers land between $15 and $25 million. The exact number is private. What matters is what the sources of that wealth actually are, because that tells us how his day is structured and what keeps the machine running even when he is not actively working. The foundation is his music catalog. YoungBoy has accumulated billions of streams across Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and other platforms. That scale of consumption generates real recurring revenue. Streaming payouts run at roughly $3 to $5 per 1,000 streams on average, depending on the platform and contract. Multiply that across billions of plays, and the gross revenue picture becomes enormous. Industry estimates suggest his catalog generates somewhere in the range of $5 million to $10 million annually in passive streaming royalties alone. Money arriving whether he releases a new song or not, whether he is on stage or under house arrest, whether he is in Baton Rouge or Seoul. The actual personal amount depends on deal structures, but the underlying gross figure reflects just how large his digital footprint has become. And on YouTube specifically, where his channel generates hundreds of millions of views and billions in lifetime consumption, advertising revenue alone reportedly brings in hundreds of thousands of dollars every single month. That is before a single album sale or tour ticket is counted. The volume of his output is a huge part of the equation. Most artists release an album every 2 to 3 years. YoungBoy has released 8 studio albums and dozens of mixtapes and collaborative projects. Every release adds more catalog. Someone who discovers one YoungBoy song today might spend the next month working through his entire back catalog. Every one of those streams generating revenue. That is the compounding power of a deep catalog, and YoungBoy's depth is unmatched among artists of his generation. YouTube has been especially important. YoungBoy's channel is not just a promotional tool. It is a business. His audience goes directly to his channel rather than waiting for radio to deliver his music. Billions of views generate advertising revenue on top of music consumption, reportedly bringing in hundreds of thousands of dollars monthly from ad revenue alone. That direct audience relationship also gives him enormous negotiating leverage because he does not need a major label to create demand. The demand already exists wherever he puts the music. That leverage led to one of the most significant financial moves of his career. After fulfilling his obligations with Atlantic Records, YoungBoy signed with Motown Records in 2022 through his Never Broke Again label. The deal was reported to be worth approximately $60 million. Now, before anyone thinks he simply deposited $60 million into a personal bank account, let's be clear. A major record contract includes advances across multiple albums, recording budgets, marketing commitments, royalty structures, and option periods. The headline reflects the total reported value of the arrangement, not a single cash payment, but the structure places YoungBoy in a position of significant financial and creative leverage. He owns his label, he controls his brand. The deal works for him rather than simply extracting from him. That combination of catalog income, streaming dominance, YouTube revenue, and a major label partnership is what funds the life we are about to walk through. Now let's break down what that day actually looks like from morning to night. The morning starts somewhere most fans will never see. As of August 2026, YoungBoy is living in South Korea, not as a tourist, not on a promotional visit. He said it himself, in plain terms, during an interview on the Open Thoughts podcast with Funny Marco that dropped on August 11, 2026. When asked if he would ever return to the United States, his answer was direct. Never in my life. He described South Korea as very safe and very clean. He said it is out the way. He said he gets the energy. And he made clear that the most important things in his life, his children, can reach him by plane. He had been traveling overseas with his family for months before making it public. The interview, filmed in South Korea, hit over 2 million views within days. What people found was a 26-year-old who had made a clear, deliberate decision to build his life outside the country that shaped him and was completely unapologetic about it. He acknowledged South Korea is not yet his permanent home in a visa sense, noting the country still needs to grant him that status. But in every other meaningful way, it is where he has chosen to plant himself. This is one of the most dramatic lifestyle transitions in recent hip-hop history. A man who spent years under legal restrictions in the United States, including a period of home confinement at a multi-million-dollar estate in Utah after being sentenced in a federal case involving weapons charges, is now building his life in East Asia. The contrast is almost impossible to overstate, and it is the foundation of what his day looks like right now. The morning in Seoul for a man with YoungBoy's resources looks completely different from what the average person wakes up to. He is in a secure, private luxury residence. Nobody drops by unannounced. The day does not begin with a commute or someone else's schedule. There is no rush, no traffic, no obligations. He did not choose. The kind of morning most people fantasize about is simply his normal. He wakes up, and the environment around him reflects every dollar that catalog has generated. Premium furnishings, high-end everything, a space designed for comfort, privacy, and creative possibility. Family nearby if his children have been flown over to be with him. A kitchen stocked to whatever standard he wants, a private gym, or access to the kind of training facilities that wealth makes available. And somewhere in that residence, a recording setup, because for YoungBoy, the studio was never more than a few steps away. His health has also become a more prominent part of how his days are structured. During the same interview, YoungBoy revealed that a doctor told him the left side of his heart was swollen. He noted he had been performing on tour when he found out and chose to finish the run anyway. That kind of diagnosis changes how a person thinks about their time. It provides context for his current lifestyle choices, the slower pace, the international relocation, the desire for peace over chaos. He acknowledged it quietly and kept moving, but it is clearly shaping how he thinks about the future. Working out is likely part of a morning anchored by health awareness. Not because cameras are on him, but because a man who learned his heart has an issue understands his body requires attention. Wealth buys the best trainers, equipment, and nutritional support. And at 26, managing a heart condition, those resources matter. Then comes the part of the morning that never really stops for YoungBoy music. He has been known for recording at a pace that very few artists in the game can match. The reason is simple. When you have a private studio inside your own space, music can happen at any hour without booking sessions, without driving across the city, without fitting into someone else's schedule. The creative window is always open. A thought becomes a hook becomes a verse becomes a finished record, all before noon if the energy is right. This is one of the most underappreciated parts of a millionaire music lifestyle. The commute is gone, the waiting is gone, the friction between the idea and the microphone is eliminated. YoungBoy can move from breakfast to a recording booth in minutes, and every session produces another income-generating asset that streams indefinitely. The business side of the morning may involve the Never Broke Again label, communication with management about streaming performance, or planning releases. YoungBoy has spoken about moving toward more selective output, describing having 1 or 2 albums left during the Open Thoughts interview. Whether that timeline holds is uncertain, but the thinking reflects something important. A man with his catalog does not need to release music constantly to stay financially relevant. The older songs keep streaming, the audience keeps consuming, the income keeps arriving. That is the part of the millionaire life most people never fully grasp. YoungBoy's catalog is not just a body of artistic work. It is a financial asset generating long-tail revenue. An old song can go viral and accumulate millions of new streams overnight. A new album pushes listeners back toward older projects. A single playlist placement can revive a track years after release. His back catalog is working for him while he sleeps, while he trains, while he spends time with his children on the other side of the world. Midday in Soul for someone with YoungBoy's resources is not a rushed meal at a desk. It is a choice. He can eat privately in a secured residence with food prepared to whatever standard he requires. He can access high-end restaurants in some of the most exclusive neighborhoods in Asia. Seoul is a city with world-class food, luxury shopping, and a standard of premium living that rivals anywhere on the planet. Cheongdam-dong, Seoul's most prestigious neighborhood, is home to flagship fashion houses, luxury retailers, and high-end restaurants where the clientele expects the best. Gucci, Chanel, Dior, Bottega Veneta, a shopping district where YoungBoy's catalog income means he can walk in, spend tens of thousands without flinching, and walk out looking exactly how the album covers say he should. For someone whose wardrobe already includes chrome hearts, custom designer pieces, and years of serious luxury investment, Cheongdam-dong is a natural fit. The cars make that movement feel appropriate. McLarens, Rolls Royces, Bentleys, Mercedes Maybachs. Moving through Seoul in that kind of private transportation with security present means the afternoon can include exploration, shopping, food, or simply the experience of being in a city where recognition feels different from anywhere he has ever lived in America. The afternoon could look like almost anything. More recording, business calls with his team back in the United States, where the time difference means his afternoon is their American morning. Time with family, gaming, rest, all of it happening within a structure he controls rather than one dictated by court requirements or someone else's agenda. The jewelry tells a similar story. Diamond chains, custom watches, rings, earrings, and pieces that represent significant financial investment are part of the YoungBoy brand. In hip-hop culture, jewelry is not simply decoration. It is a public declaration of status, an announcement of arrival, and a form of cultural branding that has real commercial value. It also represents a level of financial confidence that comes from believing the income will keep flowing. For someone with a catalog the size of YoungBoy's and a deal structure that supports his label, that confidence is not without foundation. But let's talk about the Utah period for a moment, because it is a crucial part of understanding how dramatically his circumstances have changed, and because it represents one of the most vivid examples of what a millionaire life under legal restriction actually looks like. YoungBoy's Utah residence during his years of house arrest was not a modest property. The sprawling multi-million-dollar estate in the Salt Lake City area featured panoramic mountain views, a professional recording studio built to commercial standard, and a private courtyard large enough to accommodate the kind of life he was required to live entirely on that property. It was a fortress disguised as a mansion, and it had to be because the security operation surrounding it was extensive. A significant portion of his daily expenses during that period went toward protection, armed private security personnel, perimeter surveillance, controlled access, the kind of setup that exists not just to keep people out, but to manage the reality of being one of the most talked about young artists in America while being physically unable to leave the grounds without supervision. The garage at that property told its own story. Custom painted McLarens, Rolls-Royce Cullinans, Mercedes Maybachs, Bentley Bentegas, a multi-million-dollar car collection sitting on private property belonging to a man who was not legally permitted to drive them down public streets freely for extended stretches of time. That is one of the most unusual contradictions wealth and legal restriction can produce. Owning some of the most desirable cars on the planet and being unable to fully enjoy them. The cars were there, the freedom was not. Inside the estate, the recording studio became the center of everything. YoungBoy is known for an extraordinary recording output, reportedly producing up to 5 or 6 songs in a single day when the energy is right. That is not an exaggeration for effect. That is the reality of what happens when an artist with his creative drive has a professional studio available at all hours with no commute, no booking requirement, and no reason to stop. He would order luxury catering directly to the property, designer clothing delivered to the door. The outside world could not reach him, but everything he needed could reach him. It was a gilded cage, enormously comfortable, extraordinarily expensive, and ultimately not enough. Because no amount of luxury can replace the basic human experience of being able to walk out your own front door and go anywhere you choose. In 2024, YoungBoy was sentenced in federal court in Utah after acknowledging possession of weapons despite being a convicted felon. One charge carried approximately 23 months. Another resulted in 5 years of probation and a $200,000 fine. He was released in March and transitioned to home confinement before completing that restriction and becoming free to move internationally. A presidential pardon from Donald Trump resolved additional legal obligations earlier in the process.
By the time all of that cleared, YoungBoy had one destination in mind, and it was not in the United States. The clothing reflects the same approach. Chrome hearts, custom pieces, high-end streetwear, luxury fashion, a wardrobe built over years that reflects both personal taste and the image associated with his level of success. A musician at his commercial tier can accumulate a wardrobe worth hundreds of thousands of dollars without it representing a significant portion of their overall wealth. Evening in Seoul for YoungBoy is quiet in a way that his life in the United States rarely was. South Korea holds none of the history and trauma that America carries for him. Every city in Louisiana has memories attached to it. The legal battles, the loss, the pressure of being one of the most watched young men in hip-hop while simultaneously managing everything that comes with that level of exposure. South Korea offers none of that weight. The evening might involve another studio session, because with YoungBoy, the creative process does not observe business hours. It might involve family time with children who have been flown over to be with him. Private travel means the distance between a father and his children is measured in hours on a plane rather than the permanence of separation. Security is always present. YoungBoy is one of the most recognizable young artists in the world. Fans can find him. Privacy is not a preference at his level. It is a requirement that costs real money. Controlled access, secure residence, private transportation. Expensive and completely invisible to everyone outside it, which is exactly how it is supposed to work. Now let's bring the full financial picture together. Public estimates in 2026 place YoungBoy's net worth between $15 and $25 million. $25 million is used here as the working figure, but that number is not cash sitting in a bank. It includes music rights, catalog value, the Utah estate, vehicles, jewelry, never broke again business interests, the Motown deal structure, and other holdings. Against all of that are ongoing expenses. Family support across multiple households, international living, security, management, and the enormous cost of sustaining this lifestyle over time. A millionaire lifestyle is expensive to sustain. Housing in luxury markets, private travel, high-end security, staff, insurance, designer wardrobe maintenance, family costs. YoungBoy has acknowledged having 11 children with multiple mothers, all of whom he financially supports. These obligations do not pause for legal issues or health concerns. They continue, which means the catalog has to keep earning. And here is what makes YoungBoy's financial position genuinely compelling as a story. His wealth was built almost entirely through digital output rather than traditional touring. Most artists at his commercial level depend heavily on live performance. YoungBoy's income has always leaned towards streaming and catalog over concert. That makes his financial foundation more resilient to the disruptions, legal restrictions, health concerns, international relocation that would devastate a tour-independent artist. His catalog keeps earning regardless of whether he performs or not. That is the deepest part of what a day in his millionaire life actually represents. The music he made years ago is generating money right now as you watch this. Every stream on every platform, every YouTube play, every TikTok that uses a snippet of an old record. The catalog is always working, and the label structure he built means he participates in that income rather than simply passing through it. Let us recap the journey that brought him to this day. Born in Baton Rouge in 1999 with almost nothing, started recording at 14, built a direct YouTube audience before the industry could shape his identity, became one of the most streamed rappers in the world while cycling through legal troubles, spent time in federal prison, received a presidential pardon, completed home confinement in Utah, living in a gilded cage with millions of dollars, a garage full of cars he could barely drive, and a studio where he recorded up to 5 or 6 songs a day just to stay sane. Finished the tour while learning about a heart condition, then left the United States with no intention of returning. And as of August 2026, he is living in South Korea, building a new chapter of a life that started with nothing in Louisiana. From the outside, a day in NBA YoungBoy's millionaire life may look like waking up in a luxury residence, ordering whatever he wants to eat, slipping on a $100,000 chain, getting into a Rolls Royce, and calling it a day. And sometimes it probably does look like that. But the real story is more interesting than the surface. The real luxury is not the jewelry or the mansion or the car. It is the ability to decide where in the world you want to live, to call your children from Seoul and have them on a plane within a day, to record music at 3 in the morning in your own private studio, to decline interviews, protect your location, and determine what version of yourself the world is allowed to see. After everything YoungBoy has lived through, Baton Rouge, the courtrooms, the house arrest, the health scare, the ability to disappear into a life that belongs entirely to him may be the most valuable thing his money ever bought. A day in NBA YoungBoy's millionaire life may look like a fantasy from the outside. Luxury cars, designer clothes, diamonds, private studios, international travel, and millions of dollars working while he sleeps. But the real luxury is not the jewelry or the mansion. It is the ability to decide where you live, who gets access to you, when you make music, and how much of your life the world is allowed to see. After everything YoungBoy has lived through, that kind of control may be the most expensive thing he owns. What do you think about YoungBoy building his life in South Korea, fam? Is the move the right call for someone at his point in life and career? And what do you think his legacy looks like if he really does only have 1 or 2 albums left? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this video hit different, hit the like button and subscribe because we go deep on the stories that go beyond the headlines. See you in the next one.